Railway Conversations with Doc Frank. I think if we're looking at trying to improve the way in which we deliver projects through things like modularity, things like proper risk management and focusing on real unknowns, and I think part of this is also to look at whether or not the way in which we deliver with people is actually the right way. Because if 0.5% of projects around the world deliver to time, to time, to cost, and to benefits, then that's pretty lousy, right? So if we keep doing the same thing that we've been doing forever, then we're not going to achieve any better results, are we? And so what that says to me is, we need to be as innovative and as flexible with putting teams of people together and doing work in offsite locations, doing work around the world. We need to be as flexible in that space as we are in building offsite concrete construction factories. There should be no artificial constraints to making this better. So my challenge to you, for example, would be, okay, 250 route kilometers of CBTC. That's an interesting job. That's a great job. 12 years. How do you not do it in 12 years? How do you do it in 4? Right? And it's that level of challenge that I think is required here, because the problems that you're identifying are absolutely right. Not everybody wants to live in Perth or anywhere else, frankly, for 12 years. So how do we come together to do it better? How do we do it better? And I think where Bent's going is maybe identifying the fact that there are different ways of tackling this problem, and that we should be open to thinking those through, and not just simply replicating the approaches that we've been using for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I took a quick look at just as a way of kind of finishing this off. I took a quick look at one or two other lessons learned, if you like, from other schemes. And Crossrails is clearly a big part of my life. I live in West London. I use it regularly, and I'm extremely grateful to the tens of thousands of people who worked hard to get that into service. But it was interesting reading Mark Wild's comments about his lessons learned from his Crossrail experience. And I'm guessing, actually, because Mark has now moved, or will now be moving, to take over as chief exec at HS2. So it'll be interesting to see how those lessons then move across into the HS2 world. And the ones that really, I think, that were very similar to some of the things Bent was talking about was, his views about simplification and not accepting complication just for the sake of complication. So to try and break things down, to try and be really focused on getting down to a level of simplification, if you like, where you can actually understand clearly what's going on, and then being able to manage that. And that, I think, is quite akin to the idea of Bent's Lego. Let's be modular about this. Let's break something down to the point where we understand it. Yeah. But then the dichotomy, as you would say earlier, is he was also very strong on the idea of owning the whole. So getting people to be accountable for their part in delivering an outcome. Yeah. So we're not just building a railway, we're delivering an outcome for people. So let's own that outcome, and our project delivery approach is set to deliver the outcome. And I think that's again very, very similar to Bent's idea of start at the right and build left. And I think that those things are very, very good. So there's a lot of parallel thought, I think, going into people who have experience of leading really big programs, and some of the results of this academic research and the way the academic research is finding its way into reality. I think this book comes through. It's a long time since I've done a book review, but this really comes with my wholehearted endorsement. I think Bent and Dan have done a fantastic job. I think it's a good read. It really is a good read. It's not too technically challenging, and there will be some moments where people go, "Oh my God, yeah, I get that. Absolutely right." Comes with my wholehearted endorsement. Go out and buy a copy. The guy clearly needs the money, so the sooner the better for him.
The example you just mentioned with the delivery period, like can a 12-year rollout be done in 4, reminded me of a couple of things that I found in the book as well. One chapter was called Think Slow, Act Fast as a recipe for success. And by thinking that the planning process was meant, and then acting is the actual delivery, the actual implementation of a certain part of the project. And another term that I found in the book was the so-called window of doom, which is basically the period of time that a project delivery is exposed to events from the outside. And that can be completely unexpected black swan events, such as COVID, for example, a few years ago, or it can be a combination of multiple smaller, seemingly unsuspicious events that can lead to a major damage to the project delivery. So by keeping the actual delivery periods as this window of doom as short as possible, you do the best risk mitigation that you can by minimizing the potential impact of any external factors to the project delivery. What I would
Yeah.
hoping for is not just looking at the rollout period, say here in Perth again, of 10 years or 12 years, but actually breaking this down into longer periods of proper planning and then short bursts of implementation, very thought through, very well planned. Everything is clear on paper. It just has to be put in. Everything is in the right place, can be installed, tested relatively quickly, and then be done with it. And then go back to the planning desk, make improvements, and then implement quickly the next thing. So if this rollout period can be broken down like this, it could actually be in line with the recommendations of the book, and maybe the net delivery time would actually come down to maybe 4 years or something like that.
Well, it's really interesting, isn't it? I think you've hit on something that I think is worth, I hope people get a little bit inspired by that comment, because so often the projects seem to be that we end up working on projects are, let's start and then we'll work out what we're doing next,
Yeah,
right? And under those circumstances, the things that you're talking about absolutely happen. You're working in delivery for much longer, therefore you're much more prone to risk. And risk is a killer. Risk brings cost up and it delays things even further. So, if you can plan and plan and plan and design and iterate and plan and plan and design and iterate, so that by the time you actually get to site, to real site, there are as few surprises as you could possibly imagine. And the real surprises that the COVID or the something else, that's a specific thing that you can manage as a one-off, but you're not routinely coming across surprises. You've modularized. You've got you're doing as much of the build and the test off-site as you possibly can before you get anywhere near site. You've tested it to the nth degree before you go anywhere near site. It's almost like building the I suppose what would be now the analogy of house building. So I can go and watch people build a house, and they'll put foundations in, and then 6 weeks later they'll be, and the whole process takes forever. Or I build a house in a factory to a design that I know works in a controlled environment. I break that down, put it as jigsaw pieces on the back of a lorry, take it to site, and a week later I have a house. Okay, and I think that's kind of where we're trying to get to with this. The Do as much as you can through the planning and the design, the development, and the build stage away from site to minimize the time that you need on site, and really allow yourself to minimize that window of doom, as you and Ben called it. The opportunity for those risks to knock you off course. So yeah, maybe we'll do 10 years of planning for CPTC in Perth, and then 2 years of rollout, and it'll be the best job ever.